Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Zach, thanks so much for taking some time out of your insanely busy, crazy busy schedule that you have going on right now.
Pre-Fashion Week.
It's pre-Fashion Week, and you're not just doing one show in Fashion Week. You have, which something that's kind of unprecedented, right? You're doing 3 shows, you said?
We are doing 3 shows. First time for us.
First time for you. And I think very few others, maybe.
Yeah, that's
not
a lot.
Too many.
It's a lot in 1 week.
Okay.
So I have my collection show. We're presenting my secondary line, Zach Posen, and then I'm presenting Brooks Brothers as the creative director of women's. I've been working on that for about a year and a half.
So what does this entail for you? What is your schedule like right now?
Well, it's like putting on 3 musicals in 1 week. In full production. I mean, each one is its own production. Every element of it. Each one, its own story. Different venues for each one, different models for each one. Hair and makeup is different. It's really, you have to learn how to collaborate and to delegate, to know when your hand and eye and guidance have to come into a process.
Do you delegate more or less for any of them, or are you basically the same role for each show, each line?
I think that over the years, I've learned in different scenarios where different parts of my talent can come into it. At Brooks Brothers is a large company. There's a huge team within women's that existed before I came in there, and then I work with my partner Christopher, who's also my creative director, who really guides it weekly. I'm there about once a week. He's there about 3 days a week. Because it's shoes, it's bags, scarves, and we're really trying to kind of relook and reinvent the classics, because Brooks Brothers is really about the classics and how you do that. So it's all, within the detail, the cut of it. And so my skill set, where I am in my comfort zone and know where I can add is when I'm hands-on a physical garment. I can look at, sketches all day long, but until something's in its physical element, that's when I can shape, resculpt, redraw seam lines, really build the garment. It's like my clay.
We were talking about this.
And that's the same in collection. Collection I drape. I actually still have time where I'm in my office and I turn on my music.
What music?
I've been listening. It's so diverse. So, right now, this season, I've been listening to a lot of Paul Simon.
Which album?
I've been listening to Graceland. It's nostalgic for me. It's road trips.
It's a great album.
Great album.
I imagine it's really good for sort of mellowing you out a little bit and getting you into work mode.
Yeah, it starts there, and then, it's in between draping, reflection from a piece, some African dance because of the music that it's mixed with, in there. It's great music to work with, and then I've been listening to a lot of Shan Marshall, Cat Power. She's a friend.
She's great, yeah.
Beautiful
she has an amazing
voice. And then
That's when you get emotional with the materials.
That's when I get darker and emotional, exactly. Moodier. And then in the secondary line, I work on really the larger picture inspiration and then work in the fittings. Each one has its own story. This season with our secondary line, there's going to be an interactive element to the clothing. That's all I can disclose. But that the actual young girls can interact with what's going to actually happen on the runway into the clothing.
And you can't give me any more than that? Like, they can tweet at the clothes?
Tech secrets.
You're still someone, we were talking about this before, who's very process-oriented. And you're saying this right now. You're still very hands-on. It's still a very textual process for you. So is
because I'm making product.
Well, but is delegating for you sort of making sure that people know your vision for the other parts of the work that you don't necessarily are maybe 100% on, but you know what it should be a little bit?
Well, when you grow, when you start, there's an innocence to it, a naivete that's actually really beautiful. When you start a fashion brand, when you start showing, when it starts to become a brand and there are extensions and licenses and multi-categories, It's not necessarily that you have to let go, but you have to have a sense of ease that something grows bigger than there are as many hours or minutes in the day.
When did that start happening for you? When did you notice that you had to start letting go of certain elements or delegating more? And was that easy for you at first?
No, that's a very hard thing to let go. But, through great collaboration of management, of building my teams after years of probably being a very controlling leader, I was never satisfied. And that grew into a level where, at a certain point, there was a reputation, and it wasn't really true to my character of who I was. And so, in sort of the last, I'd say, 2 years, especially once I went on television, which takes about a month and a half out of my time, you just have to learn to trust, and if the results are good, then it grows. But I have a very incredible community. I have about 65, 70 people in my company in New York. Everything for the collections are made in New York. From an artisanal standpoint, from the entrepreneurial business side, you have to be left and right-brained. I have to be the face of my company now.
That's what I mean. That must take you away from the process even just a little bit more, right?
You know what? It's okay to step away sometimes.
Right.
It's good.
Okay
it's
to
healthy.
Be the face.
It's okay. It's healthy. As long as you have an opinion or are engaged in what's happening. My email situation is not fun. It's like just a scroll. It's like a Torah.
You mentioned you may have had a reputation. Do you think that reputation may have come from being so young and so successful so young and feeling the need to maybe prove yourself and establish yourself a little bit?
Yeah, I think it freaked a lot of people out in a very competitive industry. I mean, it's sort of when I started, and it was kind of the incubus. It was the beginning stages of what I call fashion-tainment. And fashion-tainment really started with the involvement of online and fashion working together. That synergy was like golden synergy. And so it was at the beginning of that, and there was still print press. And the fashion press loves youth and young and new. News stories, that's how you sell magazines or news items. And
but would they take a young designer seriously, though?
Well, they were taking it seriously, but enough to then create enough distance to start clay pigeon shooting. And then you live through that, and that's scary and intense, and, you feel like your business, your life, everything's on risk, and then at a certain point, once you've gone at retail, what I call fashion equity, you have about 2, and now it's about 5 years if you're a designer and you get into retail, you're not making the stores money. Even if you're a medium-sized brand in the beginning, it's just for them to have that label. There's not enough stock for them to be really productive with you. It's about establishing it and building it, and then each season, against how much they sell, they buy a little bit more and a little bit less, and the economy changes, and that affects it. It's like, the two things you learn not to invest in is fashion and weather.
Careful with the water cup.
Water. Weather and nature are telling me,
be
careful.
Let's talk a little bit about Project Runway. How is your foot? I know that you
I'm
recently
fine. It was not on set. I tweeted that, it was on the beach this weekend.
Oh, it wasn't on set?
No, and it wasn't a nail, but it was just made more sense as a nail. It was this big metal spike that was just coming out of the sand, and I stepped on it, and then Heidi stepped on it.
How did she step on it after you? Was it
was
it a solidarity step?
No, it was really, we were so excited. I hadn't been in the ocean in like a full year. I like ocean and
So do
water.
I, yeah.
And it was literally like right over the dunes. Ah! And then her, ooh! and she didn't like it very much, and but we were okay. I was glad I was with her because, she had the way more rational reaction, like, let's go get a shot. Let's get a tetanus shot.
Oh, a tetanus shot. I thought it was like a shot of alcohol.
No,
like
shot. We didn't do a shot of alcohol. A tetanus shot and get it checked out, which we did. and we're all good. I mean,
So-
she's shooting, her show already. She's like Wonder Woman, and for me, I was like, I could have, I just forgot that I had been impaled. It was ugly. It wasn't pretty.
I heard that Project Runway came to you much earlier than you joined the show, right? A number of years beforehand, they had come to you to be on the show. Was that as a contestant or was that as a judge then?
As a judge.
As a judge, and you had said no at that time, right?
Yes.
Why is that?
Because I was nervous, and I think this was a fear at the time, that fashion and the industry of fashion hadn't caught up with where it was going. Fashion really, has merged beyond its traditional universe. Fashion is a small community. It's an international community, but
the fashion world was.
well,
too
you have
snobby for
editorial,
like a-
you have retail, you have your manufacturers, your fabric vendors, and your editors and reviewers, and that's it. And the designers, and there's many components to it. But there was definitely a hesitance to letting media into it or for entertainment to be in it. I was probably at a young age nervous that I wouldn't be taken seriously as a creator if I was going to let a side of me that was a natural side of me as a performer out. Then you become comfortable in your work, and once, and then I found, then when I went on the show, this was like an output for me. So no more excitement or singing having to do in the studio. It's all work, and I can have that on set or when I'm working on different theatrical projects. I mean, this year I worked with the Rockettes. That was incredible to do outfits for their new show. I did a project where I helped out, sort of giving my opinion with notes on the show Finding Neverland. That was a dream for me to be able.
Do you say no to stuff anymore, or are you just excited?
Of course,
to do
I say no.
everything?
No. No is yeah.
Quite
no
more-
is the new yes in our PR office. But it's you pick the things that make sense, that feel like that they're exciting, that build the brand further, and so we did Delta this year. We took on Delta. We're redoing their uniforms. Below and above wing.
Did you know when it was finally time for you to say yes to Project Runway, or when you did say yes, was there a part of you not just excited to sort of express yourself on camera and be a part of the show, but did it feel like a sort of calculated next step for the brand as well?
For sure. It was time. Yeah. It was definitely time. Part of me thought at that moment, has the wave of the cycle of this trend had its trajectory already? Because to go onto a show that's been on television for 10 years is always a risk. You don't want to be at the tail end of a show's trajectory. And what I came to is this idea that the show is about creative process. And individuals always have their own point of view. And to watch creative process is always fascinating for people, and will never go out of style if it's well done and presented and filmed and edited, and if it's entertaining. Mm-hmm. And so I thought that was the longevity of the show, was that it is about creative process. It is about people under pressure creating. I don't love having to scrutinize or judge somebody on something as beautiful as creativity, whether it's nice or if I like it or not, on such a public forum. But it's sure fun.
I think there's this assumption about reality shows, or maybe it's a dated assumption, that those who go on it look for immediate celebrity. And I think what Project Runway does, and maybe even some of the cooking shows do, is show you people who aren't really looking for immediate celebrity. They're actually obsessed with process as well, and they like the work. And I'm wondering if you've ever been confronted by someone on the show who you didn't see them to be as interested in the process as you or other designers that you respect. They were just looking for a moment of notoriety.
Of course, there's always, as soon as I have all the contestants lined up, after about the second episode, I can usually assess who's going to be in the finale.
Is that based on their work or based on how they work?
Everything. I mean, I just take in a person's being, their aura, their personality, their vibes. Do they have crazy eyes?
Wait, do I have crazy? You just
no.
get okay.
No, you're okay. I'd be like turned like that if you had crazy eyes. And I'd be like,
Why isn't he looking at me? Is it my crazy eyes?
No, it's and then their work and whether it's surprising or not, But there has, to be a designer today, whether you're a contestant on a reality show or a working brand and designer in the face of a company, there is a performance aspect of it. The industry doesn't like hearing that often because there's this idea of, the real creator, the real artist, the suffering part of it, and it's all real and true. But today, in order to reach the scale that you need to reach and the product assortment that one needs to build a brand or take a company public is so vast that, there has to be a little song and dance person in you.
You have to be an incredible pitchman.
And even a Mucha Prada who has, sort of the reclusive artist shtick going on.
That's part of her.
It's a shtick.
Yeah, that's part of the shtick.
For sure. And you look back at designers like Calvin Klein, a great front man. And even a Ralph Lauren in his, he doesn't do many interviews, which, he can afford not to do. But it's part of the mystique of it.
You like doing interviews, though. I don't think you are looking
I like
to
doing
afford...
interviews with intelligent people.
Sorry.
We're done.
The last
I
one
like hard
available.
questions. I like to be challenged, and I like people. I'm a people person. I like interacting with people. And what I like most about being on Project Runway is to try to, with giving tough critiques, being entertaining and funny, promoting the creative process. Because I really inherently, truly believe, I've been raised in this, I've seen it, that if you find a piece of your own creativity, if you're not a designer, you're a stay-at-home mom, a stay-at-home dad, a business person, find that piece of your creative output because it's as important as having sex. I really believe that. I believe that it is a form of an ecstasy, whether it's how you make your eggs in the morning, how any little thing that is important, that everybody has a piece of creativity inside them, and it needs to be expressed. And I think we'd live in a more peaceful world if people found that form of expression in them.
100%.
You choose a color shirt, that's a creative decision.
Takes
on
a
a
while
daily
for me,
basis.
Yeah. Talking about process again, as someone who believes so much in the creative process and works so much within it, there's also got to be times, sometimes the process doesn't work for the result, or the result isn't as good as you would have hoped for while you were going through the process. But you, as you said, having to be the pitchman and having to be the face of the company, have you ever had an instance where you had to bring a line out there that we did what we could, but in my heart and soul, I know that this isn't everything that I was hoping it would be by this time?
Not recently.
I don't need examples.
Not recently, but of course I've had, I think as a creator you have to take risk. You can't follow formula. Formula can be comforting for everybody and can last for a while, but it doesn't have enough oomph or creativity behind it to really take something further.
Well, truly,
I don't believe
people,
in what I call the chic banal.
I think truly creative people and people who like the process also like challenge. Mostly love challenge because that's what's creative.
Yeah, and with challenge, you have the roll of the dice of what side it's going to land on, and you have to be quick on your toes and learn from those mistakes. Sometimes it takes distance. And then you also, I believe you should not live with regret. I think you should live with reflection and look back, but I don't think you can have those regrets harbor things that block you from moving forward. You have to let those things kind of project you forward.
Well, that's what I mean. Part of the projection forward is being able to recognize, I think, internally what went wrong, but still being externally saying, this is my favorite thing that I've done.
For sure. I have plenty, I would say, in my 20s of fashion shows. I started when I was 21 doing my first show, but in my 20s, there are shows that I just, get cringy at, but I sort of really cringy at, and then at the same time, you know what? There's sometimes elements in them that in different context really excite me, but there's some things where I think, I don't know what I was thinking. what line of process, or I sort of know what I was thinking, and wow, was I barking up the wrong tree.
And a lot of that comes from confidence, right? Being confident in the decisions or the ideas that you have at this time in your life, and not even being able to think about or the moment a few years ahead where you may look back on this and feel a certain way about it. You have to be like, I feel this now, so I'm going to run with it.
Yeah, you got to trust your gut, trust your instinct.
Did you learn that, or was that something that was innate for you?
I think it was something innate for me. I mean, I think that's why I presented my first show. I didn't have a business plan. I didn't have financing. There was no trust fund. I mean, this was pretty gung-ho to begin with. And then once I sort of entered very fastly, to the fashion world, and then it was also, I would say, put on a pony show. And through my own, I let this happen, just doing all the fashion, weeks and, being in very, I think, too young to be in situations or too young to have opportunities. I was offered a lot of different design houses at a very young age, and it was all starry and exciting. But I don't think, I think I made the right choices in not doing them, but it was overwhelming.
You knew what you wanted at a...
But then you had lots of voices. I mean, I had so many voices, and it got confusing. So for a while, I think I was going in there would be lots of different voices and elements that would come into the work and into the brand that, weren't necessarily the true voice. But through the process, I refined my technical skills. I'm very technical. I mean, I love the craft of what I do. I mean, that's why I continue doing that element of what I do, is that I'm pretty obsessed with what mind and hand and collaboration can create together. You can actually create something that has not existed, but has that visceral, emotional reaction to it. And just making women, giving them confidence. I mean, at the end of the day, what I'm here to do is to promote women, and to emphasize different aspects and celebrate their intelligence, their character, their creativity. But you can't tackle everything at once. I mean, that's the other thing. I know, when I started, there were very strong point of views of things that I wanted to change in fashion. Now, years later, I can look back and I have more clever ways over time of getting things that I strongly believe can be changed through the power of fashion in time.
Do you have a creative regimen? Do you sort of wake up and start creating a certain way before you go to work and start doing something else? Do you have something that sort of sets you up for the day, or do you just sort of create whenever you can?
My black coffee, extra strong. I have my black coffee, extra strong. I take a lot of Epsom salt baths. I don't know. I have pretty routine. I have chicken soup every day.
Really?
Yeah.
What?
It's hydrating.
Okay. Fair enough.
It's light, keeps me svelte. It has protein in it. It's not heavy. It's soup.
Chicken.
Chicken, no noodles. I try not to have noodles. I have to find a really great chicken soup in Midtown. My office is, we moved, I was in Tribeca for years, and last year we moved to 54th Street. So if any of you know great, or anybody out there knows a great chicken soup that delivers, I'm serious. It's been a trial to find it. I had my good chicken soups downtown in Tribeca.
I want to see like a short Vogue film for Zach's search for the perfect chicken soup.
That will deliver. Yeah. I don't want to have to send people to it. It has to come to me, and I can't always, I love matzo ball soup, and I have the 2nd Avenue Deli, but I cannot always stomach it. On set, Heidi has her matzo ball soup.
So your process is black coffee, Epsom salt baths, and chicken soup.
It sounds so extreme.
Yeah.
I check the news. I read the papers. That's really important to me. I mean, to me, my design process, to be a good creator in any field, you kind of have to be a cultural receive dish. You got to be like, whatever, when you pass these screens through the AOL building here with like this.
I saw you staring at one.
Yeah, you have to be this cultural barometer that's like that today. You have to know what is happening, high and low culture. As my mom says, M&M's to Godiva.
Do you feel like it's kind of the sort of steal from everywhere? Just have your brain filled with anything that
You
it
got to
can be filled with?
understand what's happening in pop music, subculture music, if there is subculture anymore.
I don't know if there is.
Well, there will be. There'll be like cyber subculture. That there is.
I'm a little worried about cyber subculture, though.
Yeah, I mean, we have to be. I mean, But, that will become a style. Like subcultures online will become, virtual styles. There'll be styles of speech through there are probably already are. Oh, yeah, of course, there's coders. Right. And coding communication has its own lingos, and that creates its own, and maybe there will be a physical look that comes out of that. Like there wasn't
sweatpants and neck beards.
Yeah, exactly, right. Who knows? But hip hop had that, and that came out of, other elements of culture or upbringing, or became stylistic elements in the same way it happened in England in the punk scene. But we really, we haven't had too much subculture. I mean, maybe from raves later a little bit in the 90s. I don't know we have a girl on the show actually who really has the look down. I think she's from Massachusetts as well.
I'm from Massachusetts. They don't know that now.
No, they don't know that. I knew that. Yeah. Anyhow, so I don't know where we've digressed.
I think it's time for some questions, and if anybody has any thoughts or knows
Thank
where
you
the
all for
chicken
turning
soup
out.
is.
I appreciate it. Nice. Yeah.
Hello.
Hi.
So I love Project Runway, and you were talking about episode 2. You can kind of tell who's going to kind of be there in the finale. So what is it about a designer that you look for? Like, what quality do you consider paramount to
Originality, confidence. Then the realistic thing is I look at the full package. Literally, I'm like, do they have the creativity? Do they have the poise? Can they explain their work? Do they have a look themselves? I mean, those are what it takes. I think last season, with Sean, who we had as the winner, that was somebody that was surprising in the work that they did. I mean, that's somebody ready to do a show. That is somebody you can see, he was nice, he was funny, he was good looking and talented. Go for it. I don't know. That's what I see in people, and each is individual. What I mean? There's no cookie cutter box for that, but there has to be an original point of view, and they have to be able to execute it. That's what I look for.
Hi, I was just wondering where you get your inspiration for your fashion.
That's a vast question. I mean, each one is different. With Brooks Brothers, with women's, I am, it's like a big cleanup, like, how to do, so every image that I thought exuded a level of elegance, classism, sportswear. So, even just working in sportswear was actually inspiring for me, because just when I started, it wasn't the look of the clothing, but that didn't mean that wasn't clothing I didn't want to make. I love great. I know I'm in a suit today. It's Brooks Brothers. But I love khakis. I love a white shirt. So in a way, that reach was inspiring for me. For my collection, I get inspired by the people I work with, by form, by shape, by art exhibitions, by theater I go see, by music. You really need to be vast. What I do suggest, if you're trying to create your own voice, is start making inspiration books. So like anytime you go through a magazine or see a book thrown out on the street, God forbid, open it up, get some scissors, and start chopping them, and start making collections of images or collages, and create your mood boards and stories. I would suggest not just doing trends that are of the moment, because everything is a cycle, culturally and in fashion, in life, in nature. It's where we're in that cycle. So, just go a little further back. Don't just do like what's in this month's magazine, cut it out in there. Like, really, what reacts to you? And what reacts to you when you put something in context to another image? And what's the third image that tells that story? And just start making those all the time. I think that's important. And know your history. I mean, that is essential. For me, for me at least it is. Understand how the form of clothing, its purpose has changed over centuries. I mean, it's a very human thing in its basic form to just want to cover yourself from natural elements. How did that progress to how we dress today, or how we digressed in dressing today.
I'm curious, it's a cliche question to ask what's next, but you talk about being kind of a culture vulture and sort of stealing from theater and thinking about theater, thinking about music, working with the Rockettes now. I imagine you are someone who thinks ahead in the sense of like, there is this big thing that people might not expect me to do that I really want to do that would be the great challenge for me. Like, doing something with a music, with a theatrical
I definitely,
piece, or
in
making
my
a movie
future,
or
at the right
something.
time, I would love to work in film. I'd like to
Directing a film.
doing the costumes probably first.
Yeah.
At some point, I would be interested in directing a film. It's not on my short list. It's on a long-term list.
Have you ever been approached about doing the costumes for a film?
I have. It's just always waiting for the right element. I mean, we got approached to do 50 Shades quite a few years ago back, and I didn't have Brooks Brothers yet. It would have been perfect. And those things, but you can't say, I always believe that you can do a lot, but everything has to be done with the utmost integrity and done well. Once it's gone beyond that, and it's in another place, it's no good.
You can't just say yes.
I don't believe in waste. I hate waste. There's so much waste in the world, and you have to be a little precious in that sense.
And you're specifically talking about time, your time almost. Like you can't waste your time.
Time and physical. Like, I don't like wasting any fabric, I don't know. To me, like garbage or, things can be appropriated and made into something beautiful. It's all about perspective and how you place it or change it. Yeah, I'm very interested in theater. I'm interested, though, in, I love Broadway. I love film. Over the last 2 years, I've gone on and off in filming a feature documentary that might be happening in the next year. There's I always am working in different fields, and, the right project.
What is this documentary
Well, it just
about?
followed me, and it's about my story. It's in the process right now being edited, and of course I'm going crazy because all I wanted to do was be in the editing booth. I'm like, I know my story. I know what happened here. And quietly, you direct whatever scenario you're in. You're in control of your destiny in every moment.
Is this something that you've given the filmmaker full sort of carte blanche with to kind of portray you and however you were acting in that moment?
Absolutely. I mean, they were there. They were capturing it. What's strange is there was a cutoff time, and so much has happened since. That's the only thing I'm like, it seems like, a decade ago.
Right.
What would be my reflection now? How did I feel? How did my hair look? All those kind of, self-deprecating vanity.
Next question? Oh,
yeah.
sorry. Go
No,
ahead,
it's
Zach.
okay. I mean, for me with theater, the one component that I think is important to me, and I would love to work with Broadway, but also how to bring the power of live theater to a larger public. Like, if I were doing a musical, I'd probably want to figure out a way how to interpret that and have something that can be sophisticated, entertaining for a larger public, and probably be able to do it in Central Park, probably have it, free or for charity, and also, be able to ring in really star talent. Because I only really like, as I said, triple threats. They have to,
Big stars.
or quadruple. I think we're now in a quadruple threat stage where people can act, sing, dance, and direct.
What's your favorite musical?
My favorite movie is Singing in the Rain. I mean, I have it. It's like in my blood. I don't know. It's such a great, I don't know what year it's made, 1950, I think. Looking back at obviously when talkies came in, and, I'm a big Gene Kelly fanatic.
Fred Astaire?
I love Fred Astaire. I can't physically, personally relate to him. My boyfriend was on the cover of Italian Vogue a few months ago playing Fred Astaire, shot by Stephen Meisel, and that was
And were you like, I don't like it?
Well, he was supposed to come to the Oscars with me this year, and then he said, well, I have this opportunity. I'm like, what is it? To play Fred Astaire for Italian Vogue by Stephen Meisel, and that was that moment. I was like, oh. You mean my dream? My dream. But he did great, and he looked it, and he is the figure for it. So I'm sort of, I'm different body type. I'm more the, because Gene Kelly was like the
Broad shoulders.
broad
Yes, yeah.
shoulders, and he was much shorter than I am, but he was the everyman's dancer, the guy's dancer. His physicality was very sporty. I don't know if any of you are Bob Fosse fanatics, but he writes in his writings and in his books, he the physicality and the jumps and the acrobatics that he was able to do were amazing, but the lyrical line of Fred Astaire is just, so elegant.
Yeah.
I only wish.
Astaire, more elegance. I feel like Gene Kelly, sort of more casualness.
Well, one's
approach.
air and one's grounded.
Yeah, that's it.
But that's my favorite musical movie, and probably beginnings of ideas. I mean, there's a great fashion sequence in that movie where it's like very technicolor and they go into each segment, and I guess, early on as a kid, my dad on VHS just recorded everything, early cable, and every movie. So, they didn't really hold back from exposing me to too much. I mean, I went to very experimental theater as a kid at La Mama over there, you name it. I went to the theater and museums, and, that in that sense, I think, I had a very culturally rich upbringing.
Absolutely. Should we take another question?
Hi, Zach.
Hi. What's your name?
Maggie.
Hi, Maggie.
Hi. Who influenced your own personal style? Like any specific people, like famous or from your life growing up?
Yeah, of course. So when I was really young, my first style icon was Michael Jackson. And I would go into preschool and put on gold pants, and probably spin on my butt around, and I thought I was Michael Jackson, and I just liked that. Then we can go up to like 89, or like 88, I think. I went into a major Tim Burton Joker from Batman stage, and I would only, for like 5 years, only wore purple and green.
You posted a picture of Tim Burton on your Instagram
I
not so
did.
long ago, right?
I love Imagineers. I mean,
Right.
the heroes for me, like Walt Disney is an incredible, people that let us escape beyond into some place of fantasy or glamour from our mundane lives that we live. And it's all about a way you look at the world, in a way, walking down the street. I love Jim Henson. I like people that have stretched our imagination. I mean, that can go as far back. I love Hieronymus Bosch, the painter. It's not necessarily that those are macabre people, but they're definitely people that have expanded our reality and made us believe.
What about your personal style
Other
now?
personal style elements, those are, I would say, so that went from the Joker. Then I went, as more into like a nymph punk stage in high school. So that was like haberdashery, and it was like Quentin Crisp, dandy mixed with punk, and that's something you can do before you're 20. After 20, it's just not cute. And I'd wear these platform crazy sneakers and sort of sailor pants, and then like transparent mesh shirts and ivy in my hair, and I'm sure there's somewhere, we haven't found them yet, but I used to walk Lena Dunham to school and take her on the train we went to high school. I was in high school, she was in lower school, and I'd wear this fake fur double zip caftan that I made. It was pretty hideous, but it worked. It worked because we were still in the time of delight. And it would go to the ground, and it was just sort of my fur coat, and it was sort of like testing New York, like how far could you dress before people reacted, or how would they react? And that was sort of my testing of fashion there, and that I was interning at the Costume Institute at the Met after school, and so I would test it in the museum context. I grew up on Spring Street, so I had Soho, which is, like a walking runway show. Except that now everybody just looks very similar. It's sort of like a look. I live uptown now, and I grew up on Spring Street, and I go downtown, and it looks like droids downtown. And I think,
Cargo shorts and fanny packs.
Yeah, well, that's if they don't speak English.
Are you still friendly with Lena?
Of course.
Have you designed a dress?
I have. I've designed a bunch of dresses for her.
Wow.
For her big awards. Yeah, we have some traditions.
What is the
Golden Globe tradition.
What are the traditions that you have?
Well, we work together. We have fun with it. I dressed her. I've dressed her ever since her high school graduation.
You dressed Lena Dunham at her
course,
high school graduation?
yeah.
What did you put
I
her
mean,
in?
I was at that point. I had started my career. We had a studio. We were up and running. So she came to the studio with her best friend Jemima Kirk, and those are two girls that I have known for most of their lives.
Do you watch the show?
Yes.
Do you see similarity? Do you like, oh, I remember, or oh, that's so funny, that's so Lena, that's so Jemima?
Of course, there's that, and then there's people that were in our high school that were like, oh, that's so her line. that's so her. That's such a circumstance. But it was a great creative community that was there in school, all at once, and obviously it invigorated some kind of confidence or passion, or and Lena's spectacular. I just think we've just seen the beginning of what she's going to do. I don't know. I watched a roundtable conversation with other female comedians. First of all, they're all so intelligent and inspiring. I wish more people in the entertainment field had that kind of wit and intelligence and worldliness and deprecation, and they were pretty real. But I watched that and I thought, wow, Lena is just going to, they should be scared, and they are in Hollywood, and I think they can be even more scared. She's going to run it.
Yeah.
I
Did
mean,
you feel that? Did you get a sense of that from her when you were in high school with her? Like, this friend of mine, she's gonna.
Well, we
take over.
had this relationship where she was my Eloise, and she now has Eloise tattooed on her, and I thought I was Kay Thompson, who wrote Eloise on the subway.
So you thought you were like her, like she was your little, like a puppet of yours a little bit, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it was a job, but she was entertaining. She was ambitious. She, wanted to be a performer and a writer, and I would make her perform on the subway and do her hair. And she'd leave the house, and all of a sudden I'd get the comb out. And, we would, wear our crazy outfits and sort of set up scenarios. We wanted to do like a pole dancing movie as soon as the subway car went into the tunnel to Brooklyn. Felt like hit the lights, let the show start. She was a very special young girl, and her parents were just unbelievably nurturing and powerhouse artists themselves. And it's been incredible to watch her success. And I mean, I just can't wait to see her movie. When there's going to be a movie, I don't know.
Absolutely. Another question? Last question.
Uh-oh, I talked a lot.
Hi, Zach. How are you?
I'm good, how are you?
Good.
Great question. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I should just
Thank
leave
you,
now.
bye.
I wanted to know, in terms of menswear, what are the latest trends in menswear now? Because I know.
Well,
that you-
menswear is slower. Menswear is a slower and smaller business than women's. I mean, so I don't do a men's line. I just make what I wear. I don't know. I mean, in terms of like trends that are emerging.
Yes, exactly.
Wow, that's pretty broad. Well, I haven't seen the men's trend books. I'm sure we'll have they're sort of. I mean, that's almost. I don't know what the men's trends are. I mean, there's trend. The trends are like dressing up less. I mean, we have a major issue in our tie business, for real. Like, men have to start wearing ties, otherwise ties are going to go out of business. Like, men don't wear ties, so that's, an anti-trend, I guess. I think we got to get, I don't know. I'll talk about what trends I want to have happen. We'll end this on a positive. If you want to get the job, if you want to get the girl, if you want to get the guy, if you want to make a lot of money, if you want to, if those are the things that seem to be in success, and if those seem to be this kind of cultural thing, I just say be happy in general. But if those are the things that drive you, you better dress up. You better have a jacket. You better have nice shoes. You dress the part you want to become. And then, you make your own reality. So those are the trends that I would like to see in men's. And men can wear colors. Colors are great trends. And tailoring. I mean, men should be wearing tailoring more. And you cannot wear flip-flops in the workspace. Not
Shorts.
acceptable.
Shorts. You can't wear shorts in the workspace, can you?
Yeah, the sexy man leg thing once you get below 14th Street. driving downtown. I mean, shorts, listen, it's hot out, I understand it, but not in the workplace. But, if girls can wear dresses or skirts, men should be able to wear shorts. I mean, I think, there has...
They just don't look as good as.
Oh, I
dresses
agree.
and shirts.
A pant makes a long leg. It's a line on the body. There's no science to that. But chambray, I'm sure, is a trend again. Tweeds, corduroy. It really, that men's, it's like a cycle, tech sportswear. When you look at the trend books, and then you're going to see mesh and piping, padded arm. Hopefully men's, but I do think from more subculture, as we were talking earlier, there are men's trends that are developing. I mean, you see how men are representing their sexuality changing culturally. I think if you look at nature and you look at birds, and like the male birds are way more flamboyant in coloration or texture. Well, as humans and natural beings as well, I'm seeing that come out more. And I see this kind of, I don't know what we're going to call it. I think there's a funk influence in men's style that's happening here. I mean, I do see like a kind of retro Soul Train movement happening, and I'm very digging that. Like, that works for me in a major way, and I think that's good. Well, that's in that. Well, you remember, the 1970s. Sorry, she said she saw suspenders and things that feel like the 1930s. Great time for men's fashion, great time for women's fashion. That's 1930s are a great time to me because it's really at the height of craft and industrialism. And industrialism being done with design. We're kind of back there now with like computers and beautiful phones. But
I feel like you look at pictures from the 1930s, and the poorest of poor had like a handcrafted suit on. And like maybe that was like the only thing that they had, but they had like a very nice piece of clothing.
Well, they
that was,
didn't have
held
like a
onto.
Facebook profile.
Right.
They had their
They had
suits.
to dress up for a photo. It wasn't random candids all the time.
Yeah, people definitely, the idea of appearance and facade was very important. Remember that the 1970s was really looking at the 1930s and 40s stylistically. I mean, there's a brand you should study, Biba. There's a whole re-reflection movement at that time period, and it was stylistically really interpreted, especially I think in New York, at that period of time in the kids. That idea of glamour and escape, and maybe it went too far in the 70s, and then some bad things happened from that. But, stylistically, I think that's where we're kind of at. I mean, you hear it in music with what Mark Ronson's doing. That whole sound, that sort of sexy swagger with a beat, I don't know, it's there,
I love how everything's connected for you in many ways. Fashion to music to film, everything that happens.
Politics, the market,
Yeah.
oy vey.
I know, let's wrap it up there. I think we have to wrap it up.
No, I know, but it is all connected. All follow. If you have a creative ambition, perfect it, follow it, take your time, don't rush it, and I wish you all success.
Absolutely.
Really, truly do.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.
Yeah, my pleasure.